If you've been thinking about moving to Portugal and maybe you have small kids, I'm really glad you clicked on this video because today I'm going to be talking about the 5 myths that people assume when they think about moving to Portugal. This video came as a result of getting many comments and DMs of people having a lot of assumptions about moving to a foreign country, and I do not blame anyone because I had a ton of these assumptions as well when I started looking into this. So I'm excited to share this with you today and hopefully encourage you to look deeper, look beyond the myths and the assumptions, and really see if moving to Portugal is right for you. Hi, my name is Mia. I am a mom of 2 little kiddos and I am a self-care coach. And if you're new here, I create content about mental health, healing trauma, and self-care. And I also started to make content about Portugal because I recently moved here with my family 3 months ago. I have 2 small kids and we moved here in order to improve our quality of life, which affects mental health. So I'm excited to offer this as a series on my channel called Postcards from Portugal, and it's going to be a regular occurrence because it seems like a lot of you really appreciate these videos. Before we dive in, I want to mention that I have an ebook, which is a really honest look of the pros and cons of Portugal. It's called 25 Things You Should Know Before Moving to Portugal, and it already has really great reviews, so I'm excited to share more about that later in the video, and if you want to check it out, there'll be a link in the description. All right, let's dive into the video. The first myth I want to debunk is that you need a work visa in order to move to Portugal. If you have never heard of the word visa in relationship to moving to a foreign country, you are welcome here because a year ago, I heard someone mention it in relation to moving to a country and I was like, what? Visa? Like visas are credit cards, right? So if that's you, you're not behind. It's just we don't really talk about this kind of stuff. So hopefully this can be an education for you today. So a work visa or visa is a legal document granted to you by a government that gives you permission to live and work in another country that you don't legally have the right to be in. So visa is like a really important permission slip that you need. And a work visa is a government permission slip that is given to you when you have a job in that country. I don't have a work visa. I have what's called a D7 visa. And this is a visa that Portugal grants to people who make an income not in their country. They want to know that you have a remote job or a business or some sort of income coming in from outside of their country. This visa is given to people who are not taking up local jobs that they want to give to their citizens. So it actually is one of the easier visas to get because if you are a remote worker, you can get a D7 visa. Obviously, it's not as simple as that. There are a lot of requirements. And to be honest with you, over the last 12 months, the Portuguese government has really increased the requirements to getting this visa. And it's because there is such a huge influx of Americans moving here, with 2021 being the highest record year of American immigrants moving to Portugal. And I do not say that to scare you, but to let you know that if you are thinking about it, definitely don't procrastinate on it. Really look into it and see if this is right for you. But yeah, that's what a work visa is. Know that there are different kinds of visas. Know that every country has their own list of requirements, and every country can change that list of requirements at any given time. So it's really important to stay up to date with what the requirements are as they change. When my husband and I were going through the process, the requirements changed midway through the process. So you really just kind of have to be on your toes and be paying attention. I'm gonna link to a really important website of the Portuguese Embassy in the United States in the description box. So if you want to look at that website, they have the requirements there as well. But yeah, that's a myth. You do not need to have a job in the country you want to move to in order to get a visa to get permission to live in that country. Myth number 2 that I want to talk about is that it's really expensive to move and that you need a ton of upfront money in order to move to a foreign country. This cannot be further from the truth. In fact, my husband and I actually decided to move to Portugal because it was going to be so much cheaper for us in the long run to move out of the United States. I talked about this a little bit in my first video, 5 reasons why I left the United States. Cost of healthcare is so affordable here. Cost of food is affordable here. Cost of housing is crazy affordable here for what you get. And so we knew that even though there was an upfront cost, that because our expenses here in Portugal are 50% less than what they were in California, we saw it as an investment because we were already reaping the rewards of living here, of having such a lower monthly cost of living, being able to use a little bit of extra money and put it into the Portuguese economy by eating locally and shopping locally. And on top of this, when it comes to the actual costs of, getting the visa or getting prepared, let me walk you through some of those costs so you can really get an idea. So one of the things that was required in the visa, the D7 visa that my husband and I applied for, was getting a short-term rental, like an Airbnb. So this cost us only $1,400 for an entire month. We just had to show proof that we had paid $1,400 to get a month-long Airbnb. And then eventually we did need to secure a 12-month lease somewhere locally, obviously in Portugal, but you didn't need that up front. When I was applying back in December 2021. The requirements could have changed by now. Another thing that you need obviously are plane tickets. And for a family of 4, if you buy plane tickets ahead of time, way in advance, you can get a really good deal. We paid about $3,000 for a family of 4 basic economy plane tickets. Legal documents. Now, these could change a little bit. And when I talk about legal documents, I'm talking about getting birth certificates, your marriage certificate, FBI background check, getting some of those documents translated into Portuguese, getting some of them apostilled, which basically means verified by the Secretary of State to prove to the Portuguese government that your documents are indeed real. All of these different, processes and getting formal documents and getting things apostilled cost about $300. And then for the application fees, this cost $95 a person, and I only needed to do 2, even though we're a family of 4, because it was just my husband and I that needed to submit formal applications. And then the last thing that became a new requirement, you used to be able to just mail in your application. The Portuguese government, by the time I applied in December of 2021, required that you physically go to one of their embassy offices to submit your application in person. And I think they're doing this to see who's really serious about moving to Portugal, and also probably to whittle down the number of American applicants that are trying to get into Portugal. That's my theory. It might not be true, but it went from, you can just mail this in, to you need to book flights, you need to get a hotel, and that costs us about $1,000. There are 2 Portuguese embassy offices in the United States. One is in DC and one is in San Francisco. I lived in Southern California, so I was able to book a flight up there pretty cheaply, but it was kind of last minute, so it was a little bit expensive. But just keep that in mind. If you live far from the embassy offices, you have to budget that in. But one thing I want to say about all of these costs is that you can do your application process as slowly or as quickly as you would like in terms of gathering all these documents and paying for all of these pieces, right? The Airbnb, the plane tickets, all of this stuff. If you need to spread out the cost, you can do that. And of course, you can't force the government on the United States side or the Portuguese side to hurry up and review your application or send you your legal documents. So you can't speed up those things. But if you don't have all this cash sitting here able to get all these pieces together, then spread them out. At least you're going to be moving toward your goal of applying to get to Portugal. And of course, there's the worry that what if you pay all this money and they don't accept your application? Well, then you can cancel your flights and get that money back. And you can cancel your Airbnb and get that money back. You can get a lot of this money back other than the legal documents. And to be honest, I was totally okay with paying for the legal documents because I needed multiple copies of birth certificates and marriage certificates anyway. So just remember to stay within your goal, keep your mind focused on why you're doing this in the first place, to manage the fear of uncertainty, because as human beings, we always get freaked out about change. But at the end of the day, if you follow the list that the embassy gives you, they'll tell you if they reject your application, they'll tell you why, and then you can work on it from there. But again, the cost of living here is about half what I was paying in the US. So even though there were some upfront costs, it's already paid off. So hopefully that debunks that myth for you. Another thing when it comes to costs that somebody asked me about was paying for storage. Now, I don't have anything in storage. I'm going to insert a picture here of all of the things that we brought with us to Portugal. My husband and I decided that we were going to get rid of and sell everything that we could not take with us. This was a personal choice, obviously, but we didn't want to have to pay a ton of money to ship things all the way from California to Portugal. We figured it'd just be better, more cost efficient, and better for the environment to buy things locally. And so far, that's been totally fine for us. And we did have to say goodbye to a lot of toys that the kids love, but now they get to get new toys, and that's really exciting for them. And when it came to like computers, because my husband and I both work from home, our computers are very important for our work. We both decided to downsize and things like that. So you just end up finding solutions when you make the decision that we're not going to bring all of our things. I have like 6 tops, a dress, and 2 pairs of jeans, but we make it work. And bringing all of our stuff with us around the world wasn't really the goal. So if you are trying to minimize costs, consider not bringing an entire shipping container and paying for a moving company to take your stuff internationally. You will save a lot of money by not doing that. Now we're going to take a quick moment to talk about the ebook. So if you haven't heard already, my ebook, 25 Things You Should Know Before Moving to Portugal, has already been purchased 24 times. And I'm really grateful to every single person who has purchased it because it supports this channel and helps me to be able to create these free videos for everybody. The ebook is 38 pages and it covers 10 topics: food, healthcare, housing and apartments, language, lifestyle, money, parents, safety, transportation, weather, renting an apartment checklist, and staying in an Airbnb checklist. So it's 10 topics plus 2 bonus checklists to help you know the pros and cons of living in Portugal. And one thing I want to say on this is that I am not a travel influencer. I'm not paid by the Portugal Tourism Board or the tourism department or anything like that. So I think you're going to get a pretty unbiased view of Portugal from my ebook. I don't gain anything from you actually moving here other than hoping that you will enjoy it and that it improves your mental health. But when it comes to financially getting anything from you moving here, there's no conflict of interest because, again, I'm not a travel influencer or anything like that. So if you want a deeper look at what life in Portugal is like, I highly recommend that you get the ebook. The next myth about moving to Portugal is that you must know the native language in order to move there. Of course, it's ideal to know the native language of the country you're moving to. I wish I spoke fluent Portuguese. I only know a few words and phrases. I'm still practicing. But I have to say that when you do the research, you find that a lot of people in Portugal actually speak English, and you'll actually learn the different regions where English is more commonly spoken. That helped me to zone in my focus of where I wanted to live in the Algarve region and in Lisbon and in Porto and just major cities across Portugal where there's going to be more English speaking people. So yes, knowing the native language is ideal, but don't let that hold you back from spending a year in a foreign country and being exposed to new culture and a new way of living. Another thing I want to say about learning the language is it ended up being a really fun way to bide my time when it came to waiting for the application process to move forward. Applying for a visa can be very frustrating and very time consuming and tedious, and focusing on learning the language and decluttering my home and preparing my finances for this move were all great ways to kind of stay focused on my goal, give me something to do that was Portugal related, and help me to start learning the language in the process. Myth number 4 is that finding community is hard. This is one question that came up on Instagram. Someone was like, well, how are you going to make friends? You're in a new country, blah, blah, blah. And I totally respect that. And there's 2 things I wanted to say to that. Number 1, I was also worried about this, but my fears were quickly melted away when I went to a co-working space and literally everybody was like, hi, what's your name? Where are you from? Like, people are so used to people coming for tourism, people moving to Portugal. People were so welcoming. People are so kind here. And it just was so easy to connect with people. Like, I've already gone to a birthday party. I've met so many parents, both locals and other expats, other immigrants. I've met people from all over Europe already. I have used the Meetup app, which I'll link below, and I've gone to community events in my area. And I was actually at one community event for moms who work remotely or have businesses. And I was just like amazed that I was sitting down in this person's living room with people from all over the globe, all in Portugal, eating cheese and grapes and drinking wine and sharing our common struggles of trying to raise kids while running businesses and trying to build a life abroad, and how much we shared in common. And it was just like wild that all of us were all speaking English and connecting, and it was just really, really cool. So when it comes to going to the beach and meeting people or co-working or using the Meetup app or using Facebook, there's so many Facebook groups. There's something for everybody. It's like if you're just intentional about it, you can make friends here. And another thing I wanted to say on this was I actually think it's easier to make friends here because people have time and people want to enjoy their life here. There's a different vibe and a different mentality here where people want to spend time in community. And I didn't experience that back in the United States. When I lived in California, there was this schedule and cancel constant culture where no matter how many times you would try to schedule an event, people had to cancel. And honestly, it wasn't people's fault. It was like either there was the pandemic or someone had a work deadline and they had to work the weekend or a kid was sick. But that's not the case here. I find that people make time for getting together and people have more time because we don't have the 24/7 work culture in Portugal the way that we do in the United States. So I actually find that the culture here supports community building than back in the United States. And the last myth I wanted to cover is that the decision to move is permanent. And I know this one sounds a little bit silly, but you'd be surprised how many people, including myself, felt this way or used this myth or assumption to hold me back from moving abroad. As humans, we tend to think in black and white thinking and this all or nothing mentality of if I move, that's it, I'm going to regret this forever. But I want you to remember that everything in life is temporary. And when I was considering moving to Portugal and I was feeling really nervous about it and I was talking about it with my therapist, she reminded me of something super important. And she said, if you move there and you hate it, you can always come back. And so I want to leave you with that today, that if you come to Portugal and you don't like it, you can always come back to the United States. It's always open and available to you. And if you're worried about sinking costs into moving here, I kind of want to challenge that because is it a waste of money and time to pursue this if you can be exposed to a new culture and new language and new experiences and maybe slow down and tend to your mental health a little bit more? Maybe take a step back from the culture of rising, grinding, hustling, and paying bills that we are so wrapped up in the United States to just figure out what's next for you. Like, is it really a waste to spend a year abroad and to enjoy your life a little bit? Hopefully, all of us have many years on this planet. And when I think about spending a year abroad, I realize it's just 1 year of hopefully so many years on this planet. And that's what I want to leave you with today. I want to challenge that assumption and challenge that myth of, oh my gosh, if I move, that's it. You can always go back. You can always recognize that there are things to learn and experiences to live out here. And if you don't like it, if it's not for you, you can return back home. And that's always an option that's available to you. I think so many of us have just been trained, understandably, to live in fear because of the constant stress that we live in, especially in the United States. But I just have to say that I've been here for 3 months now, and I finally feel a lot of that, the weight of that fear melting off of me. And I'm just feeling a lot better. And I'm feeling more at peace. And that's something I want everybody to experience. And maybe that's not something you're going to experience in Portugal. Maybe it's something you'll experience in France or Italy or Iceland or the Netherlands, because a lot of countries actually have these visas available, but we just don't know about it. So hopefully this can get you started on your journey of figuring out what's next for you, what's next for your family, and can just open up the possibilities. Because over a year ago, I did not think that living in Europe was possible for me. I had all of these assumptions. I believed all of these myths that I just covered today in this video. And it almost held me back from pursuing this new life. And I'm so glad that that didn't happen and that I moved abroad and that I'm enjoying a slower, more peaceful life here in Portugal. So that's all for today's video. Don't forget to check out the ebook linked in the description if you're interested. If you want to talk more personal details with me, I also have a book and Ask Me Anything call option. I'll link that below as well. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you found it helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video if you enjoyed it. And I really would love to know if any of these myths spoke to you. Did you used to believe any of these things? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you next time. Bye.